So when working with JavaScript, there are several different places you can put the code. You can put the code in the top before the closing heading. You can actually put it at the bottom right above the closing body. You can put it in an external file, or you can put it where you want things displayed. So I'm just going to demo some of the concepts that are in our notes. The first one being the variables. And we basically have several different types of variables in JavaScript. We have numeric variables, and the way JavaScript determines the data type is it actually looks at the data that you put into the variable. So when you create or you declare the variable, you can declare it without any data, or you can actually put in a value. And the value that you put in is what it uses to determine the data type. Okay, so if you can see once I put in the 50, it determined that it was a number. And we can do a name. Now with name, because I have double quotes, it thinks it's a text string. Now it has no idea what age is because I haven't assigned a value to it. And what I can do later on is I can assign a value to age, and we'll make Scooby-Doo 20. Okay, and at that point, it still is saying age can be any. The weird thing about JavaScript is that at any point in time, you can change what is stored in a variable. So if we set age to a numeric 20, later on, we can actually put it in a string, put 20 into a string, and that's fine with JavaScript. It lets you change values. So what we're doing up here when we are using variable is we are declaring variables. And then when we're setting variables equal to something, when we declare them, that is called initializing. And then what I'm doing right now is keying in a comment. And there's a couple different ways to do comments. So one technique, if it's just one line, is to do // Okay, and then here we are assigning values, and this is the other way to do a comment. Okay, this is kind of more of an old school way, but it does allow a multiple line comment. So if I wanted to do more than one line, I could. Although that looks ridiculous, so I'm not going to do it that way. So we have text, we have integers, whole numbers, and we have floating point decimals. So that's numbers with decimal places. JavaScript also has Boolean characters, which are true or false. So let's do another variable. We'll say able to drive. Okay, and so we're just declaring it, not initializing it. And we'll assign a value down here. And you can either use true or false, or 1 or 0. So false and 0 are the same thing, and true and 1 are the same thing. So if I said able to drive false, I could also set it to 0, and it would interpret 0 as false. So we've gone through all the basic data types except for arrays. And arrays, I'm going to pull this over, they let you store multiple pieces of data under a single name. And the thing that's unique about JavaScript arrays is you can store multiple data types under a single name. So not only is there multiple pieces of data, but you can have numbers and strings and Boolean all in the same array. And that is unusual. The way you create them is you have the keyword var, and then you give the array a name, you set it equal to, and then inside brackets, you have all of the data that you want to store with commas between. So you can see for a number array, I've got the word 10, 20, 30.5, 55, and 6. So I've actually got text, integers, and floating point decimals in this array. The way you access the data is you have to subscript in. The first value has a subscript of 0. So if I do numbers sub 0, I'm going to get 10. Numbers sub 1, I'm going to get 20. Numbers sub 2, 30.5. Here's another example with test scores. Okay, so you can see element 0 is the first one, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I want to change a value, I use the name of the array with the subscript, and I set it equal to a value I want. JavaScript allows you to add data to the end of the array and remove data from the array, and it adjusts the array size dynamically. So you can see test scores only had 4 in it, but if I did something like this and I subscript in with 10 and create 100, it'll let me do that. Okay, so the length property is used to see how long an array is. So in this little example, music genres, I got R&B, rock, classical, and pop. So R&B, you subscript in with a 0, rock is a 1, classical is a 2, pop is a 3. If I retrieve the length, it starts numbering at 1. So the length is always going to be 1 more than your last subscript number. So the last subscript on here was a 3, and our length is going to be a 4 because it starts numbering at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can use length to actually add something to the end. So if we do music genres length equal country, it'll add that to the end of the array. Now there are routines in JavaScript that let you add and remove and sort arrays, but those are beyond the scope of this class. The JavaScript programming class covers those. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we will paste this in here for our array. And we're going to adjust it just a little bit. Because a more flexible way of adding to the end is to simply use musicgenres.length as your subscript. Because then you can add, you can remove, and it's always going to be accurate. And if I wanted to do more than one thing, it will work. Ooh, well, let's put metal in here, and then we'll do another one. And this will be alternative. Now, you might be thinking, well, this is all fine and dandy. How do I get to see this? So there's several different ways of displaying the data. They do involve using methods that are built into the JavaScript language. There are several methods that come in the browser window that you can use, and they typically start with window. And so we're going to use window.alert. And this is used to display data. So if we want to see what's in our music genre array, we can have a little text display first. Here's my music array. Okay, and then we can do a plus sign to add in the music genres. And it will display that to us. So I'm going to save this. And let me see. Yep, I'm going to have to open this offline here. And you can see here's my music array, and it's showing me all of the data. Now you might be thinking, well, how come it didn't put the data on the page? Well, Alert is not designed to do that. What Alert does is it displays it in a pop-up window. So if we wanted to see it on the screen, we have to use a different method. The method that we need is document.write. So we would say document.write. And you'll notice there's two of them here. So the difference is that write line does it on its own line and write does not. So I think we're going to pick write line. And let's add the paragraph tag here because you can put HTML right in here. And so that's an opening paragraph. So after the music genres, let's add the closing paragraph. So when you're putting in HTML, that's considered text. So you do need to put it in quotes. So now, instead of having the little pop-up window, what this is going to do is it's going to write it to the screen in a paragraph. And if you wanted to see the Scooby-Doo info, we could do another one. Although I think we're going to change this and we're going to make it even more flexible because we used window.alert and that displayed a pop-up. There is another method called window.prompt that actually will let us enter data. So instead of assigning the age of 20, we'll do window.prompt and we'll say we'll just say, what is the age? Okay, and then whatever the user keys in gets stored in age. And let's get rid of that. And why don't we do name equals, and then we'll do another prompt. What is the name? And then we'll say salary equals. What is the desired salary? And then we'll do one more. Can you drive? And then we better say true or false. Okay, so it's going to pull in whatever we enter and store it in our variables. So even though some of the variables started with a value, once we key in the new one, that is going to replace the old value. And then if we want to see the information, we can do a document.write line. And let's do H2. Here's your information. And then we'll do an ending H2. And we'll do another document.write line. And let's make this in a paragraph. And we'll put name. And then we'll add in the name variable. And then we also need to add in, don't want to forget, the closing paragraph. And then I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste a couple times. And so we've got name, age. We have salary, or desired salary. And can you drive? All right, let's save that and reload. What is the age? 35. Name, Scooby-Doo. Desired salary, 50,000. Can you drive? True. And you can see that it wrote back the information.